Hey all, this is Jess. Welcome back to Sunflower Dairy. And guess what time it is all? It's tomato time. So it is the end of March and it's officially time to start tomatoes. Right now I'm going to be starting a lot of my favorite kinds of tomatoes. Black Beauty, Blue Beauty, Sort Rollois, and so many other different kinds. So when I first started seeds, I used to start my tomatoes in a cell tray like this, but I have moved on to doing a different method. So instead of starting in something like this, I now start in something like this. And here's why. So when watering in something like this, you know, you're watering the whole thing of all different kinds of cells, which if you've ever started in one of these, you'll notice that different parts of this will dry out quicker than others. So especially if you're bottom watering, it's hard to keep this watered consistently without having one end that already has water and then one end that has dried out. It's hard to give them the amount of water that they actually need. Which if you give something water that has already had water in the soil standing, then you're going to have problems with the damping off and anything like that, especially if you're adding more water to soil that already has water in it. So that to say, now I individually start each variety of my tomatoes in these because they are perfect. You can start a couple different tomatoes in one of these. It's pretty big compared to the cell trays. So you can easily start a couple tomatoes in here. Just don't put the seeds right together. You're going to kind of space them apart on separate sides of the container. So that way, when it's time to separate these, then it's easy for you to just pull them apart and then their roots won't be all scrunched together. Also, a nice thing about these containers is not only can you just water each individual container and then you know what each container needs as far as water, these also come with lids. So you automatically get a little humidity dome when you're starting seeds, which makes germinating a lot quicker. Also, when you're starting with this instead of this is going to take up a ton of room under a grow light, which if you start in this, then it's not going to take up as much room. And like I said, you can start multiple different tomatoes in here as long as you space them out. That way you can separate them later. But with this, you know, these are smaller, so you're only going to be putting one, maybe two seeds in here, and then you're not going to be getting as many tomatoes started as if you used one of these. Alright, so let's go start some tomatoes. Alright, so we're going to be starting with the Black Beauty tomato, which this is a deep dark purplish blue tomato, and this tomato is such a beautiful tomato and the flavor is just so dark and rich and smoky. It's such a different flavor compared to just a regular acidic tomato. Alright, so I already have my container filled with soil here. I'm just going to be marking off a couple spots where I'm going to be planting my tomatoes in here. I'm going to be starting about 4 tomatoes in this little container, and then later on, after the tomatoes outgrow this container, then they will be separate. Also, these containers are super easy to just label with tape, and then you don't have to worry about any little plant markers. So I have found that tomatoes are super great at germinating, so I usually don't plant more tomato seeds than I'm actually going to need of plants, because I've noticed that tomato germination is usually really good. So if you plant more seeds than you're going to need, you're going to end up with so many tomato plants. Alright, so I'm just putting each seed in the spaces that I made that are all spaced out so the tomatoes don't completely grow together. Just going to go ahead and cover them up. And then just spritz them in. Okay, technical difficulties with my sprayer. I think this got frozen when we had like 4 degrees this past winter, so may need to get a new one. But you just spritz in your tomatoes. Alright, and then after your tomatoes are all planted, you're just going to put the humidity dome on top. And if you're going to be growing under grow lights, you can take this inside, or if you have a heated greenhouse, you can keep it in there. My greenhouse is not heated, so these will be going inside under grow lights until they germinate. Then they will be moved out to the greenhouse. Alright, this is a Store Rollois tomato, and this tomato is literally my favorite tomato ever. It has those deep, dark, purplish blue shoulders, but it also has this bright yellow pineapple-y center, and this tomato is beautiful. It has that deep, rich smokiness, but it also has that light, almost citrusy, lemony flavor. It's so good, I can't even explain it, but it's just a beautiful tomato. This is definitely 100% my most favorite tomato to grow ever. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start this exactly the same way as I started my other ones. Now, if you are going to be starting tomatoes in these containers, you can just get a flat tray and put your multiple different tomato varieties on here. And then that way you can still stay organized and know exactly where all your tomatoes are. But if you're limited on space and need to put just one or a couple of these underneath a grow light, then you can. So once the tomatoes are starting to grow in here, once they're probably about this tall and they have their true leaves and they start looking like they need more space, that's exactly when I will go ahead and separate these. So when it's time to separate the tomatoes, it will be officially time where the weather has warmed up enough where all the tomato plants can stay out in the greenhouse instead of being inside under grow lights. So this is how I get my tomatoes started under grow lights with limited space, and then after they've grown and matured and can be put into their own individual pots and moved out into the greenhouse after it warms up, then that makes it a whole lot easier. Also, I know a lot of people don't have grow lights, so this is a good option because these can actually fit on a windowsill. Unlike a great big huge tray like this, it would be seriously so hard to put this on a windowsill. And I know there are so many gardeners trying to grow where they are, so this I feel is a good versatile way to start tomatoes, and it makes it great for everyone. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk about a couple more of these tomatoes. So pink jazz tomato, this is a beautiful tomato, has so many beautiful streaky colors in it, and this is a nice light tomato but still has that tomato flavor in it. We'll be starting that. Also the Anna Norris tomato, we're going to be starting this. This is such a beautiful tomato. It almost has a deep, dark, rich, almost pineapple-y flavor, but still with that beautiful tomato flavor. So we're going to be starting this today. And also Blue Beauty, which this also has those beautiful, deep shoulders, and it has that smokiness, but again with that hint of that regular tomatoey flavor. But this is such a beautiful tomato to grow. Alright, now that we have those planted, alright, I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest of my tomatoes started. The sun is starting to set. Today was such a beautiful day. I was working outside all day, was able to get a ton of stuff done, but the sun is setting and it's time to finish up. Alright all, thanks for coming along with me and planting tomatoes today. Thanks for watching. Have a blessed day.